And it says we're live, so I think that we're here. Of course, this is a brand new and shiny Mercury retrograde. So,
Oy.
Dahlia, if you get a chance on your phone to verify that we are actually on Tea and Crones this time, I would appreciate it because,
Absolutely.
boy, did I mess that up last time.
I got you. I will let you know.
Thank you, darling. So everybody, it takes I think about 90 seconds of lag between the time we start it and the time the video goes. So we should be live any minute now.
Good.
Refresh here. We are live.
I love it. Are we on the right place?
Yes.
Oh, good. All
Yay,
right.
that's wonderful. Welcome everybody to Tea and Crones. I'm
Hey,
Katrina
guys.
Asfold. Go, Corbie.
Oh, I'm Corbie Midline.
And I'm Dahlia.
Dahlia is the rugrat wrangler for the two of us.
Oh,
Indeed.
she
So-
keeps us on point. She makes sure that we begin and finish on time, and she is the voice of the people on the live stream. Now, we don't actually, Corbie and I see any of your comments. That's all Dahlia. So if you have questions or you have comments you want to include, Dahlia will screen those and put the most pertinent ones into the conversation because Corbie and I just talk a great deal. We're very verbose and we have an hour to cover a lot of material.
Yes, and for those of you that are new, welcome. We're so glad to see you. No, we're not doing readings tonight. Nope. This is chat between the two of us. And if you have questions on what we're talking about, that's what you send to Dahlia.
Perfect. So what we decided to do this week is to talk about some of the misperceptions that people have about what we do. Now, what is it that we do? I'm a professional witch and I'm an author. I specialize in spiritual cleansings and spell work for people. And that's the primary arena that I'm going to be addressing my misperceptions on. How about you, Corbie?
All right, certified tarot master, past life specialist, psychic medium, and basically my stuff is, I did a piece of stand-up comic called You Think a Psychic's Life is Easy. So it's going to be all of the stuff that I tend to run into, especially doing expos and psychic fairs.
Awesome. So, Corbie, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with one of yours?
Okay. We are not always going to tell you what you want to hear, and there's no sense beating us up to do it. For instance, 99% of my questions are romance. So someone comes to me and says, does Bruce love me? And I'm going to say no. And they say, well, is he going to love me? And I'll go, I don't think so. I don't see it. Well, if I do such and such, is he going to love me? No. Well, how about, is he going to call me? No. Well, if I do this, is he going to call me? I don't think so. Well, how soon will he call me? And you keep beating on us, hoping we'll finally say, yes, yes, he loves you and wants 7 babies with you, but he just doesn't know it yet. And you go, oh, good. Don't do this to us. We have to tell you the truth. And if he is going to end up a surfer in Oahu with some skinny redhead and you're a lovely plump blonde in Brooklyn, honey, ain't happening.
Very
Number
true. And
one.
often what they'll do, I know you've seen this as well, because we even get this between us, is they will go psychic to psychic until they get the answer they want. So they can have 9 psychics telling them the truth. The 10th one that lies to them and tells them what they want to hear, they will talk to high heaven as being authentic.
Guys, do you know how much money you're wasting when you do that? And if they know that they can lie to you and you will believe it, the next thing is you have a hole in your aura, you have a curse, you have to come to me because I am the only one who can fix it.
Absolutely.
Wrong.
And it's going to cost you 4 figures.
Never less.
Yep. So one of the biggest misperceptions people have about what I do in witchcraft is that I am somehow affiliated with Satan, or that I work with Satan, or am Satan's minion or bride, or that I thereby kiss the arse of Satan, or whatever it might be. Satan is actually a Christian concept that moved through Christianity. I was a Christian for many years. I do not now identify as Christian. I don't work with Satan in any way. And so when you try to explain that to people, what happens is they get this look on their face like, oh, poor little dove just doesn't realize what she's working with. And really threatening somebody who is of my path with Satan, or that Satan's going to get them, or that they're working with Satan, is sort of like telling somebody else that Krampus is going to get them. Or because to us, that is a mythical figure that was constructed by another spiritual path. So it doesn't even come into our focus. We work with divine figures, saints. We work with the concept we have of God, or possibly the concept we have of goddess. Some of us work with orishas and the Loa. So really, it's very individual as to who works with what and with whom. And I can guarantee you that very few of us work with Satan. Now, that being said, there are actual Satanists, and there's a very specific path. It's laid out in a certain way. And but that does not mean that they are witches, or that witches are they. So I kind of have to disavow people of the idea that I work with Satan. I don't.
Not even close. You want to find out the satanic, look up Anton Sandor LaVey.
He's the man.
So not God, not nothing. It's all a matter of what can we do here.
Right.
So say it's like, would you get really upset if a 4-year-old came up and kicked you in the knee and called you a duty head? Would you say, oh my God, the duty head's going to get me? No, you would laugh. You'd send the kid in for a timeout. Same thing here.
Now, that I don't, by saying that, in any way disparage anyone who does subscribe to the idea of Satan, for whom that is a real entity to them. I accept and validate that that is their path and the way that they feel. It does not, however, have anything to do with my path.
Everybody's version of God is what they see. And just as Jewish accepts Christian is different, Christian accepts Muslim is different, Satan over there playing in a different room. That's how
Absolutely.
you think about it. So, all right, let's see. Next, drive-by psychic shootings. Oh, you're hitting a hot button with me, baby. I know you have all seen the Long Island medium go up to somebody in the grocery store and go, excuse me, I have a message from your Aunt Donna. Your back tire is bald and you're going to die in a week if you don't get it fixed. Just telling you. And she walks away. Do you know how that's set up, guys? Number one, they scout that grocery store for a month. They pick out people. They have them sign a model release and they set up the shot. Okay? If anyone ever tries that with you, listen to my feathers, honey. You immediately stop them and say, I'm not interested. I don't want the information. Because how do you know they know? You can't trust them. And if they keep saying, but I have this message, that's harassment. Talk to the grocery store manager. Anyone, especially spiritualists who do come to you, they have rules. And the first thing they will do to you is, I think I have a message for you. May I come to you? And if you say no, the answer is no, and they accept that. Anybody else pushing on you, their ego is trumping your safety. Out the door with them. Okay? No
really
reputable psychic is going to do that.
It really is a violation of that person's integrity and privacy to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it's why people are scared of psychics. They think we do that. We don't. Not good ones.
Yeah.
I think there's a converse, if I could, with Corbie, there's a converse to that too. One of the things that I encounter is people walking into my store and going, what do you see about me? And it's like, I don't just, I often go, you look like a very well-dressed individual, because like, I just don't go, like Katrina said, it's a violation. I don't just go around penetrating people's fields and sitting down and having that conversation, saying like, okay, you know, if I feel like you're a threat or a danger, then yeah, my hackles are a little bit up. But other than that, you know, I'm not trying to scan you for anything in particular. So it's very interesting. It goes both ways. Mm-hmm. I can appreciate that most of those individuals sort of want validation, like, making sure that they're not evil people. And I'm like, well, if you don't believe you're evil, then, there's nothing I can do to see or say, because even if I said contrary, it would be your belief that shaped that experience for you. So
The only time I've done that, when someone said, okay, what do you see with me, was crossing the border into Canada for a show. And I looked at the toll person. I said, you're underpaid, overworked, and you can't understand why Americans are always so damn nasty. They could not stop laughing, but they pushed me through.
There you go. There you go. That's a great tool. That's a great way to use it.
There you go.
And you know what people also don't get in addressing what Dahlia said is, as psychics, we aren't always on.
Yeah, that would be exhausting.
It is. It's exhausting. And honestly, I have clients, somebody, and I have a store as well. Somebody just walking into my store, oh, what do you read about me? I don't know. Why don't you book a consultation and we will discuss that?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I do for a living.
Right, right. It's not a hobby.
Oh, and the other thing that drives me nuts is when they walk up to my booth at a psychic fair and they go, well, I don't know, tell me something you couldn't know about me. And if you're right, I'll have a reading. Yep. I smile and I say, I'm sorry, I don't roll over and fetch either. And I turn my back and they do not get into my booth.
Yeah,
that's just rude.
That one.
Yeah, I couldn't have possibly known before you walked up that you're rude. So I'll just go with that.
Yeah, it's amazing the level of manipulation that people will go to, but this is the world we live in, right? Like that kind of thing gets rewarded. And then not to mention reviews and how that can be, used to sort of manipulate situations, because everybody tends to side with whoever's putting that information up.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting and delicate. And I don't know about you guys, maybe this is I'm seeking wise counsel, but I only just got over that after, several years of practice, just kind of being like, you know what, I'm okay with whatever is out there. And then, trying to be as authentic as I can be, because if somebody's going to align with the superficial layer of how much, how high are you rated. I once had somebody ask me, like, how accurate are you? And I was like, what? People come back, I guess. Like, that's the level of accuracy, is like people come to me more than one time.
Yeah.
Do you get that too? Katrina, the whole accuracy thing, do you get that too?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes. But also me being psychic and the channeling that I do is not my primary push. Mm-hmm. It's an addition. It's just a tool that I use for mine. I'm not branded as that. So a lot of people don't expect, they'll come into the store and presume that because I'm in the store and own it, that I'm psychic and can read them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're wanting me to tell them, oh, your power is so great. That's what I'm reading off of you. And
yeah. Yeah.
So this is an interesting one. And I get this quite a bit. Because I have what could arguably be described as a witch store, a lot of people, because that's our emphasis, is witchy tools.
Right.
And a lot of people who come into my shop immediately presume that I or Eric or Gladys or Debbie or Nelta or somebody working here is Wiccan. There is this assumption, and a lot of this was excellent marketing on the part of the pioneers of Wicca, where they kind of commandeered the idea of witchcraft. We had all of these books that came out that were actually titled as witchcraft books, such as Witchcraft Today by Gerald Gardner, Complete Book of Witchcraft by Buckland. We had all of the Farrar books, What Witches Do, 8 Sabbaths for Witches, when all of those were books about Wiccans. And because that was our primary reading material, and because they had this ambition of sanitizing the idea of witchcraft into something more palatable and pasteurized so that people would mainstream it as a religion, there was this huge campaign to say, oh, witches aren't scary. Witches don't ever do bad things. Witches are just caring, loving, tree-hugging people. And so there is still this pervasive idea that all witches are Wiccan, that they cast circles, and subscribe to the Wiccan beliefs, and that just isn't the case. In fact, the vast majority of witches are not Wiccans. Now, most Wiccans are witches, but Wicca kind of in the conversation of witchcraft just got here. And also, if you go globally of the practice of witchcraft, Wicca is very, very tiny, but it had great marketing. So people will come in and just say, oh, which one of you is Wiccan? Well, nobody. I'm not now. And so, yeah, that's one of the misperceptions, is that I must be Wiccan.
That's interesting. It's
You
almost
would
like
say Christian and assume they were Southern Baptist.
yeah.
Right on.
It's
Or
almost like
even some little niche pilgrim holiness, tiny part of Christianity.
Seventh-day Adventist or something. Yes.
What I said in my book, actually, when I was talking about the idea of Wicca versus folk magic, is that if you were to put your finger, if you were to have the full spectrum of witchcraft, from the first time somebody stirred herbs into a shell and called it witchcraft until today, Wicca, you couldn't put your fingers together tightly enough to be how small of a percentage of that practice it is. And when you consider all folk magic from around the world, it's so huge and vibrant and diversified that you can't really encapsulate it under an umbrella, and especially not the umbrella of Wicca.
You were trying to say something, Dahlia. What was it?
It seems like Wiccan is like the like what people try to use as a toe dip into like full-blown witchcraft. They're like, okay, if I can handle this part, then maybe I can do the deep dive.
It's the gateway drug.
Yeah, right. Like I feel like sometimes crystals are like that for people. Like I definitely have that conversation. I'm just starting, and I can handle carrying a rock that's supposed to bring me money. But if you ask me like to make major life changes that will sustain my healing, we're not there yet. So.
It's like you get the itty bitty book with your tarot cards, and it says the tower card, and it gives you 2 sentences, and you assume, I know all about the tarot card. No, you don't. It's deep dive, my darlings. It really is. Craft is in whatever form. Tarot, any of this serious spiritual stuff, you can paddle around in the kiddie pool, but the fun stuff is when you really learn to swim.
Well, that shallow stuff is dangerous too, right? Like, especially when it comes to witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people talk about having they're like, oh, I don't want to invite anything in evil, just meditating. And I'm like, if you don't deep dive into something you fully want to practice or study, then that's where you have to be worried. Don't worry about the rock or the quieting your mind. Worry about the spell you bought off the internet that you're just like, I don't know. or not even bought. Most people just dig into the free stuff, and then they get the supplies and hope for the best, and it's like, eesh.
Or they become what I call cosmic muffins. In fact, there was a guy who did astrology on the radio years ago, and I believe he was known as the Cosmic Muffin. I think he was that from your end of the world, Katrina. And people would listen to him, and it was like, oh my God, the Cosmic Muffin said Mercury is retrograde. I can't get out of it. Yes, you can. Do not just give all of your power to the sun sign astrology forecast in your daily paper. It's not how it works. Jeez Louise, guys. Sorry, end of rant on that one.
What you got, Corbie?
Oh, let's see. We're not dial-a-dead. Oh, we're not dial-a-dead. Mediumship is an amazing and powerful thing. It is. We do it differently. There are some people that can just open up and download. My dear friend, the late great Allie Cheslick, we called her Chatty Cathy of the Dead because she's amazing. I do it differently, which doesn't mean I do it wrongly, but I want to get right to your person. So I tend to ask for dog tags: name, who they were to you, the year they died, and how old they were. Now, that doesn't tell me anything, but it gets me into the energy. If I can get them for you, I will. But if they're on a field trip up there, they will not be by the phone. Remember, you don't sit in your kindergarten seat forever. You're off doing interesting things, and that's what they're doing. Now, the other thing, I'm not someone who will do mediumship on the air or in a gallery because I don't censor myself. And I will tell the story here. I'll clean it up a tiny bit. There was a woman who came to me in Canastota, New York. Her partner had died. So she was a widow. Her partner had died. She wanted to speak to her partner. Now, look at this space. This grew up a nice Jewish kid in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I have manners. But what comes out of my mouth in flawless urban ebonics is, well, shit, if it ain't my white bitch. And I'm going, hey, damn. The woman in front of me is doing this and laughing and crying because that's how her partner, Isabel, always walked into the house after a business trip. I can't do that on stage, and I can't do it on normal radio. So for me, you want mediumship, it is private between the two of us because I will not censor and I will not change the message.
I had away from mediumship very quickly because I do a lot of channeling when I do my tarot readings. I was in a situation publicly where I was reading cards for the cast of All My Children. Wow. in a ballroom in front of over 100 people on a microphone, and All My Children had just been canceled. And so I was getting a lot of, well, you're going to have a new job coming up, that sort of thing. And then you're going to be relocating because some people were only in town because they were working that job. And I got to one of the actors who I adored, and he had been through a pretty rugged divorce several years back. And I'm looking at this reading, and it's all about the divorce and a lot of things that I didn't know that had not been public about the divorce. And I'm looking at him, and I'm on the microphone, and I'm looking at the cards, and I'm looking at him. And I finally just dropped the mic, and I said, listen, you're going to have to just go with me on this. I want to see you after about this, but I can't say this on the microphone. And he thanked me, and he was really cool about it. But that, yeah, sometimes you just get put on the spot with what's getting downloaded.
Mm-hmm. Really is. So what's yours?
Mine is, and this is not pick on the Wiccans day. I love the Wiccans. I was a Wiccans. I teach Wicca. Wicca is a beautiful path. Do not get me wrong. But because of the way that Wicca was set up, and Buckland was a really big push in this, people believe that you need expensive tools, or you need to buy certain expensive herbs to be able to work magic. And honestly, what I teach my students is, I'll tell you an example of this. An elderly woman who's on a fixed income came into my store, and she said, I went to the other store, and we all know what that is, around here. And I was told by the guy there that in order to work a protection spell, I had to order a special herb from England that he would get for me, and it was very expensive. Now, we're in Sacramento, or they are. Rosemary grows wild there. You can literally just go out and trim rosemary from the library grounds. And yet this person was telling her that she needed this really expensive herb from England. Number one, you don't. The main purpose of folk magic is to work with what you have, what's in your cupboard, what's out your back door, what's at your local market. So you don't need expensive herbs or expensive tools. You make do with what you have, or especially you work with the land spirits, which means that you are working with what the earth is giving you where you are, because that's always going to be a stronger energy than what you order from another country or across the United States, because you've got an incoming energy coming into a foreign area. So the more that you can work with the herbs and the plants that grow locally, and using tools that are very basic most of the time, you don't have to break the bank to be a magical person.
Good, please, because that again sets you up for, I have special candle. Only I can do it. $6,000 you want to buy? No. Trust me. Urg, the caveman, figured out that this particular rock was good for mammoth hunting. He did not go 72 miles to go find another rock. He picked up a rock.
But if you do want to break the bank, please go to crossroadsoccult.com.
Yes, please go to my friend's store. She's really good. So,
You know, we get that too a lot. It's because the shop is sort of openly metaphysical. A lot of people on different paths cross in, and I tend to get, like, even with sage, there was this run on abalone shells, and I was like, wait, I can't buy that. I don't have a shell. And I was like, go get a mug, or like, a bowl that won't Pyrex. Go to the thrift store. I found an onyx ashtray at a thrift store, $2.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. Like, just stop with it's you don't need the shell to catch the ash to make it more sacred. I promise you will still get the clearing.
And you can put sand in the bottom of anything and turn it into an incense burner or turn it into a smudge tool. I have planters, I have bowls, I have anything. Throw sand in it, instant burner. Plus, you don't have to get your incense into those little tiny holes. If you're really stoned, you can just jam it right into the sand and it burns just fine.
all right, I'm going to say something that she may yell at me about. Not used, fresh, but I tend to use a little bit of our little sweet scoop litter and it just fits fine. And the little stick stands up, the little stick doesn't care. So please, you do not need, please. Are you getting the message, guys?
Yeah.
Save the money. All right. My turn?
Yep.
All right. Now, Ouija boards. Oi, Ouija boards. Let me explain you, my darlings. Ouija boards are technically neutral. It's a tool like tarot cards, etc. But if you do not know how to ground, center, and shield, the rather low-level vibe spirits are hanging out at the corner of Akashic and Karma, and they see you and they say, hey, Sid, let's screw around with them. Yes. Jane Roberts got Seth. Esther Hicks originally got Abraham through Ouija boards. But I have had to deal with two terrified, gibbering teenagers who, no grounding, centering, and shielding, just put their hands on the planchette and said, who's there? And all of a sudden, they got, I have an axe and I'm here to kill you, spelled backwards. That's not your Uncle Danny. And for all of you who say, it's in the toy department, how difficult can it be? I get this question all the time at psychic fairs. I go, okay, fine. Who has a child or a grandchild under 10? And a lot of hands go up and I pick one. And I say, okay, what's your kid's name? John. And how old is he? He's 6. Okay, fine. Little Johnny comes to you and says, mommy, I got all A's on my report card. And you said I could pick out any toy I want. And there's this one that everybody has right now. And he drags you into the toy department and points at a box that says, my first chainsaw. It's in the toy department. Are you going to let him play with it on his own? Of course you're not. Please don't mess with the Ouija boards. I don't care if you saw it in Downton Abbey. I don't care where you saw it. There are other tools you can use.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's Ouija boards. They're angel boards now. If it has all the alphabets, numbers, yes, no, hello, goodbye, goodbye.
Any talking board.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Angel boards. Wow.
Yep. That's what they're doing.
Oh, capitalism.
Yes.
So my next one is a little touchy because different practitioners believe different ways.
Okay.
But this is how I work, and therefore it is a misperception of what I do. And that is that a lot of people come in here believing that because I offer a service of spell work and different types of spell work, and because I offer the service of readings, because I offer the service of classes, that I am required to teach everybody who comes to me, or to perform spell work for everybody who comes to me, no matter what they want. And that just isn't how it works. We're talking about an investment of my energy and me putting my integrity and spirituality on the line for a client. So I have to judge client to client whether what they would like for me to do is justified or not justified. And if I don't feel right in my spirit teaching this person, it doesn't matter how much they want to be my apprentice. It doesn't matter how badly they want to be a conjure person. They are not going to learn from me. And that's been something really hard for me to work with, because I used to have the idea that if God led them to me, I'm meant to teach them. And what I have discerned in the meantime is that sometimes what I'm meant to teach them is that they don't always get what they want. So yeah, that's been a thing I've had to look at lately, is no, not everybody who comes gets into the class that I'm teaching, the private magic class I'm teaching. Not everybody who comes, am I going to back their magical play and do the work for them so that they don't have to get their hands dirty.
Perfect sense. Feeding into that is the idea of what I call remote spying. Okay. Now, let's say that Catherine and TJ are dating. Catherine can ask about TJ and TJ can ask about Catherine. If they break up, they cannot ask about each other to find out who each other is dating, etc., because the energy has been severed. That's what remote spying is. There was a woman who came to me in, God, where was it? I think it was Hamilton, Ontario. A lot of my good stories are Canadian. She said, I want to know where my husband is sleeping with his mistress. I said, I'm sorry, I don't do remote spying. She said, oh, well, can you tell me how many people he slept with and how often he's cheated on me? No, I'm sorry, that's still remote spying. Boy, you don't do anything. Okay, fine. Is he sick? Is he going to die soon and leave me his money? To which point, I turned to my lovely assistant. I believe at that point it was my buddy Laura Spickerman, and said, Laura, I'm not able to read Mrs. Cooperson. We're not connecting. Please give her money back. And I did not suggest another psychic for her to see. If you would not want someone else peeking in your drawers, guys, how can you ask for somebody else? The only exception I make for that is a mom is allowed to ask about her children anytime she wants. But if your mom comes to me, she gets it too. So be very careful with that. But no, there are boundaries we will not cross, and don't try to push us, because we know how to say no.
Absolutely.
I've definitely had that experience too in my healing work. I actually got chewed out by a woman in front of others. How you offer so many services. How is it that you couldn't help me? And I said, and I had given her referrals, but it was her processing her healing around rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And so she wanted what she couldn't have. And it wasn't even about like me assessing her, more than I'm not a good fit for you. Like, and this kind of goes back to what Corbie was saying earlier about wanting to hear a certain outcome. And then I later found out that this person did go psychic to healer to psychic to healer, looking for somebody to say the right thing. And I was really grateful to have kind of dodged that bullet, because I already knew. I was like, I don't have what you're looking for. Like you're coming over here for salt and I don't have it. Sorry.
Did you say to her, well, you know that what you need to deal with deeply is rejection. So by my rejecting you, I'm helping you. I mean, you could have gotten away with that.
I could have. I was just kind of taken aback. I mean, words like you're a healer, you have to do things. I was just kind of like, whoa, that was my first rodeo with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, now I'm learning too. I'm going through my healing too, because my ego is really in protection mode, and I'm trying to be kind simultaneously. But it's wild, that people sort of feel entitled to your energy, And like Katrina mentioned, you know, boundaries, like it's almost like they think that if you have a gift from God, which I think even if you're not a psychic, a healer, a witch, or otherwise, you have gifts from God, and people do not have rights to those.
Mhm.
They're
Well,
still
and
part
it
of you.
is like, you're a fantastic artist. You have to paint my picture.
Yeah, no.
If you're a friend, you'll do it for free.
Oh, please.
Oh, and now we're not doing this stuff. Okay.
I'm gonna drink my tea over here.
Yes,
Oh,
drink
this
the
is
tea.
maddening.
Things like, well, you're not reading anybody right now. Why don't you do something for me for half price? That way you're not just sitting there. Or, well, can my friend and I come in both and just pay for one reading? Or give me a free reading and I'll tell everybody how good you are. Or
It'll
I
be good
really like
exposure.
what?
It'll be good exposure.
Yes. Or I really want a reading and they just stare at you like, you know, I'll stare you into doing it. Or my favorite, what do you mean that you won't read me for free? You're not very spiritual. That's a God-given gift. You shouldn't charge anyway. And what I do is I tell them, fine, let's switch the professions. Would you say to your hairdresser, oh, you're just standing around. Why don't you cut my hair for half price? Would you say to the plumber, well, why don't you install my dishwasher and fix my heater, but I only pay you for one service call? Or I really want that dress for the prom and stare at the person who owns the dress store. Or say to the cleaning lady, clean my house free for a month. And if you're good, I'll tell everybody. Or to the doctor, what do you mean that you can't treat me? You just want me to get sick and die. You're not very compassionate. People look at you and say, nobody would say that. And I say, then why are you doing it here?
Right. Right.
I love the familiar thing where you do love your friends, you do love your family, but you go to a party where there are 50 people there and somebody goes, oh, Katrina does cards. Katrina does cards. Get her to do your cards. And you try to be nice and you say, well, I didn't bring my cards. I'm not really working tonight. Oh, I've got a deck you can use.
Oh no, no.
Oh, it's maddening. And then they get all bunched up that you're saying, no, I'm really not looking to do that tonight.
You know, even at working for a veterinarian, I wouldn't tell people that I worked for a vet because they go, my dog has this thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. Anywhere I went with scrubs, I was not my profession, because people just do that. And I think, the craziest thing is that all three of us genuinely seek to help people. Like if you have something going on, you don't have the finances, I know that each one of us has had and has helped a number of people for free, but it's always genuine. It's always like, the situation is clear that they need the
We
help.
get the nudge from upstairs. This one,
Right.
thank you.
Right. And but then it's the people that really don't, it's not that they don't have it, it's that they don't want to pay, that they double down
Yeah.
on it's crazy. It's crazy.
Another thing in that regard, now I saw this in my Reiki training. I saw this in brujeria, and I encountered it when I was learning hoodoo and apprenticing as a conjure practitioner, is the idea of energy exchange, which is that you should always, when you're working magic for somebody or doing your thing for somebody, whatever that is, you should anticipate something in return, whether that is barter or the offer of a service. It doesn't, sometimes that energy looks like money and sometimes it doesn't. But this keeps the land of resentment clear and creates a mutual understanding between the two. And if you're doing barter, both parties should come away feeling like they got the best part of the deal.
Yes. The three of us are we are full-time intuitives. They run their stores. I do my stuff 6 days a week. And we do it because we love our work. But we live in the world. We have bills to pay and, cars, and I have cats to feed, and boy, do they eat and stuff. So that's why we need to charge. If you wanted us to give it away, I'd have to go get another job somewhere else, and you would get me maybe 4 hours a week. So it is in your best interest to be fair to us energetically, whether it's you pay us, whether you give us a chicken, whether, you do some service for us, have a product, that's fine. Because it also says, I treasure and respect what you are doing for me. The old idea, you get what you pay for, very accurate here.
And I will volunteer myself for a good meal. I will do almost anything. So if you feed me, yes, that I'm happy with that exchange. So especially if it's cake.
It's a good one, cooking meals for a person. Say, hey, I'll come in and clean your house, or if you're in that relationship with somebody, or I'll watch your kids if it's a friend. Always offer something. And a lot of us, it's not just the three of us. I know lots of people that value certain things more than money.
Yeah.
And so know your reader. Don't stalk them, but if it's someone that is in your family or your friend circle, don't just presume. Offer them something as well.
Please.
Watching my kids would be about 2 healing sessions. So yeah.
What's next for you, Corbie?
Oh, let me put on the glasses and see. I think a couple of things, just don't. These are just don'ts. Things like at a psychic fair. If you've got a kid with you, if you can toss them off to somebody else, that's great. Because for little schnutzling to come weaseling into your lap and start messing with my cards and say, I want to pull one. And the mother says, will you pull a card or hand, please? Fine. I'm going to pull one of my tarot cards and go, oh, look, Timmy, death. You just don't do that. Now, the best children's reader that I ever knew, his name was Bruce Donaldson, and he is now upstairs reading for the angels. But he had a talent for reading with the kids, and he always kept a child's deck with him, which I have started doing as well. If you're going to be a reader out there, keep a children's deck. I have one that is the Cat Wisdom deck. Now, if little Johnny wants to pull a card and he pulls something like this, don't panic. Look, it's a kitty face. That's fine. But the tarot decks and a lot of oracle decks are inappropriate for little kids to mess with, even if they're indigo children. Okay? So please respect our tools and respect the time that we are giving to you, concentrating on you. Okay? We would appreciate that. You guys ever run into anything like that? Little kids running crazy in the store?
I hate reading for kids. I get it. Now, that being said, I have 6 kids. They did all spring forth from my body. It was not a Brady Bunch melding thing. They're all officially grown within. They are now adults, 21 to 43. But as much as I love my kids, when I ran a circle for 22 years, it was a no kids circle. A lot of people want to expose their kids to magical workings, and that's great. But I needed the energy of the circle to be focused. And if I had people in that circle who were not used to being around kids, they were distracted. The parents were distracted because they're concerned about how the kids are managing the energy, what the kids are doing, the questions the kids are asking. I wanted direct energy flowing through to whatever goal we were working toward. That extends to my readings, the same as Corbie. I find it distracting when kids are there. And again, they're interested in the cards. They're pretty pictures. They want to know what's happening. It's something different that's going on. So they do have a lot of questions. It interrupts my psychic flow to have to stop and ground and figure out what this kid is up to. Also, there is no winning in most cases with reading for kids. Number one, it's going to be a boring ass reading. It's going to say stuff like all of your needs are provided. You feel challenged sometimes, or what if you do get the 3 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, the Death card in the Tower, and it's a kid. What reading are you going to give? Are you going to call social services? You know, are you going to tell the kid? You're not going to straight up scare this kid. The parent's going to get weird. There's just no winning it. And so honestly, I don't.
Years ago, I was hired to read at a bar mitzvah. And so we had all of these, and I didn't care what cards came up, and they didn't know either. It was 3 things. You have a secret you haven't told your parents. You're having trouble in one of your school subjects. You have a crush on someone and you haven't told them. And, you know, for the parents, you know, I would do normal readings, but for kids, that's all they could handle. So please, please, if you have someone who was a specialist at reading kids, like my late friend Bruce, great. Otherwise, it's no, you wouldn't take your kid to a class on quantum physics, right? It's the same thing.
I definitely have an open door policy with kids. Usually the question is like, can I bring my kid? And I say, I have maturity rules. So I don't have an age limit, I have a maturity limit. If they are mature enough to handle it, because some are. I mean, you know, for a 3-year-old, my 3-year-old can sit still and not be a pest for 20, 30 minutes. It will take some bribery, but he can do it. We've sussed this out, which is strange because my 10-year-old can't. So other things, but usually what happens is people walk into the shop and I'm like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of stones around. We have over 70 different kinds of stones. They're going to feel it. And I've only had 2 bad incidents of like one kid actually just going into a jar and deliberately slamming the stones on the ground. Because usually I'm like, okay, well, they're rocks. They can handle it a little bit. But this kid was like, no, let me see how much they can handle. And it's like throwing them around. And I was like, all right, listen, maybe you don't get so much into the crystal buying and you get a handle on your little one there. But as far as class, my usual rule is what's their level of maturity, but I do recognize the distraction as far as like Katrina was saying, because I know even with my own kids, I am not the same person when they're around, because I'm like, all right, what did you do? What did you break? Did you clog the toilet in this public space? Like, what's happening? How do we minimize the damage? You know, and then of course, are they having fun? But I need you to behave too.
Absolutely. And you're right about the maturity level, because I do have some kids that I will read for their parents with them around. And it's a matter of, can you sit your ass over there in that corner and play Mario Kart quietly while your parents do this? I'm down. But if you're all over the place like Speed Racer, jacking with my cats and flipping the cards, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So what I think we should do, and I want to get the 2 of you, your opinions on this as well, since we've had such wonderful conversations, and I want that to continue around each of our topics. We are coming to number 5 for both me and Corbie. I was going to suggest that I think Corbie's even getting ready to do number 4 for her. So we have 3 more. I was going to suggest that we finish these up and then do the next 5 next week. Is everybody good with that?
Sounds great.
Okay, you're up, Corbie.
Okay, please don't shoot the messenger. We're going to tell you the truth, and it may not make sense to you right now, but remember, we're the tube it comes through. We're not ego trying to figure out what's going to weird you out or what sounds really good. Not good readers. Again, Canadian story. A woman sat down with me and I told her that I saw she was probably going to take in a boarder and would likely sell her house. And she looks at me and she says, "You suck." And she gets up and walks away. Well, I'm back in Kitchener first weekend in January. And who's the person who sits in my desk first? Yes. So she said, "Last time I said you sucked." I said, "Yes, I remember." Because you told me that I was going to take in a boarder and then I was going to have to sell my house. And I thought that was all bull. But my daughter got pregnant and moved home, and now I have to sell my house to raise the kid. And I still don't like you, but I want to know what else you see. Please don't shoot the messenger. That's the whole thing. You know, a lot of people talk about the ego. If our ego is into, are we accurate? Are we going to tell them the right stuff? We're off in the weeds because it matters to this little person here. We are the tool that your guides and our guides and the big dudes upstairs use to get you the information. So if all of a sudden I'm hearing they want me to tell you that there's a plaid rutabaga, it's going to ride a fire engine near you, it is going to come out of my mouth and you're just going to have to trust it. Don't be surprised if that shows up under your kid's Christmas tree. Okay? Look, I'm funny. I can't help it. I'm funny. Just deal with it.
Well, and you're absolutely right. People, and this refers back to the thing we were talking about earlier. People come to us with a prescribed script of what they want to hear for a reading or for a consultation. And if you vary from that script in a way that doesn't support their worldview of how things should be, it's somehow you're lacking. And that's always tough. You know, when you come to a reader, you need to be open to being read and to what they're going to say.
Life is not bed knobs and broomsticks or practical magic. It's not.
Sadly, no.
No.
I don't know if they've ever shot the messenger. If they have, they haven't told me. But I don't know. I've always had this weird thing about when I say things, it's just like, oh. So I don't know. I get yelled at for other things, I guess. Like, oh, like I said, the healing thing or something like that. But I definitely see where shooting the messenger has clouded, like in conversation with other psychics and healers, are like, oh, you know, I got this thing. And you know what, that is something that happened to me. When I first started healing work, I was diving into being able to see people's traumas and in real time, and not knowing how to approach that or bring that up because I didn't want them to shoot the messenger. And so definitely have worked on that and grown to finesse that, but still give the truth in what I can. So
I'm thinking about Corbie's Canadian experience there. Do either of you have people, and this also goes back to our previous question, where the way that they interact with you during a session causes you to say, I'm not the person to work with you anymore. I'm not going to work with you.
Yes. My rule is, if I read you, because this goes on to also how often should you have a reading? If I read you and 6 weeks later you come back to me and say, did everything that we talked about and now everything has changed, I'm happy to read you again. But if you come back to me once a year and it's always the same questions and I'm always telling you the same stuff and you're clearly not working it, I'm going to be like a good bartender and cut you off. You're wasting my time and your money.
absolutely get that. I try to keep a list of people that I can refer folks to that I have had experience with personally for integrity reasons. And I'll just say, hey, you know, I mean, I don't necessarily have to go through the whole spiel of like, I can't work with you. I can go, you know what, I think, you know, that you'd find more help from this person or be in the better space, just to, you know, kind of guide them. Because I don't like, I think it was Katrina that said it earlier in the broadcast. I don't believe that we're meant to work with everybody, and I certainly don't want to. Like, I'm one person. This planet is full of 1 billion people. Like, I just don't. I need a break. So yeah, absolutely.
I agree. So the next one that I have, this is my 5th. Corbie, what are you on? Did you just do number 5 or was that number
I've just been blathering. I have no idea. No.
All right. Well, the next one I have is, again, a touchy subject because it really gets into the ways that many, many people believe, and it's mostly my practice that I don't subscribe to that. And so I'm not bitchy about it when people presume this about me, but I have to gently correct them as far as my practice goes. And that is that people presume onto my practice the idea that I embrace the concept of karma, that I follow the idea of as it harms none, do what you will, or that I believe in threefold law. And people think of harms none and threefold as being Wiccan concepts, but actually those penetrate a number of spiritual paths. Even in the Bible, it says that bread thrown upon the water of life will come back to you threefold. And karma is an Eastern philosophy. I do believe that the energy you put out into the world attracts your tribe, attracts the people that are going to come to you. But I also don't necessarily believe that what one person thinks should come back to someone as karma is what's going to happen. I think that people have ideas about the way that other people behave, and that they wish upon that person an accountability that to them is commiserate to what they have done. But not everybody would have that same opinion. You're talking about locking into a punitive idea that the global view may not support. And so, as I mentioned before, in my practice, I don't really engage karma, the idea of karma, very much. I don't think that the idea of harms none is it's anything other than a valuable attribute. It's something to aspire to. I don't think it's practical in application. And I'm not convinced of the mathematical veracity of threefold law. I don't think that's quantified that way. So I just work from the idea of, is what I'm doing justified? Is what I'm doing not justified? And make those determinations myself. But I don't subscribe to those. And a lot of people will say, well, if I do this, am I going to get a karmic backlash? If I do this, is it going to come back on me threefold? And I tell them, if you're having those thoughts, it means you have a guilt feeling over what you're doing. And if that's the case, we need to reframe how we're doing this, because that's going to contaminate our work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I am with karma, harms none, and threefold.
Karma for me, and this is basically because of the work that I've done with Robert Schwartz. Karma is not carrot and stick. Karma, in my understanding from the work I do with Rob, is actually 5 things: unbalanced energy, which is a neutral; healing, service, contrast. You want to learn about abundance, you have to be both rich and poor; and healing of beliefs. You choose what happened. Now, quick example. I've gotten cancer 3 times. Does that mean I was bad? No, it means that I came into this life dealing with being in a female body when my understanding is I've been a male most times. And because I was not getting the lesson, the higher self, the big soul, said, if you don't get it by X, this is what we're going to do, because we have to get you past that problem. You have more work to do down here. Fine. So I'm still here. That was in 2004. It's 2021. My understanding of what I'm worth changed radically once the rack was gone. So was that karma? Yes. Was it punishment? No. It was a learning opportunity. When you look at karma that way, instead of carrot and stick, life gets a lot more bearable and a lot more fixable.
Now, something I do subscribe into, and I tell my clients and my students this, is, for me, magic is energy. When I'm working spell work, I'm putting energy into the world to, I'm channeling it toward a specific goal. And magical energy or spiritual energy responds to the same Newtonian laws that electricity does or other forms of energy do. And one of those laws is that for every effect, there is an equal and opposite effect that comes back. And I believe that sometimes if you do something, I am part of that equal and opposite reaction. So if somebody, I just did a work for a guy today who was cheated in business wise by another person. He demonstrated to me that this appeared to be accurate. He asked for some help in calling this person into accountability. My thought is that very possibly I'm an agent of that accountability, and putting my energy forward into that might be what brings this person accountable. And so in that case, it was justified to work an accountability spell for this person. So I think that we are a part of the handshake of what happens there, but how we dress it up and what we call it and how we interpret those ideas is very individual.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like it's 9 o'clock Eastern. I don't know what time it is over there.
6.
Okay. We've come to that hour, that closing moment. So any parting words of wisdom from our elders?
We hope that you learned a little something. We hope that you understand we are not, nobody died and made us God. But these are the things that we have run into in our long careers that may help you understand how better to work with us when you run into us, because we want to work with you well. And if you can sidestep these little potholes, it's a much easier road.
What she said. Also, we will be back next week, same time, same YouTube channel, and we will be talking about another 5 things each that are biggest misperceptions about what we do in our careers. And to, as Corbie said, to help you work better with us and other energy workers so that we're able to maximize what we can do for you. So that's what we'll be doing there. If you missed any part of the broadcast, it is going to be archived on our YouTube channel and also on our website at tandcrones.com. Now, Corbie, do you have anything coming up in the near future that you want to promote?
No, my next free reading session is not until the middle of the month. If you go over to my YouTube channel, there's a brand new Candlemas guided meditation that just went up. And there are several things, especially if you're a tarot reader, I've got some really interesting videos on new spreads there for you as well.
Awesome. Dahlia, do you have anything going on at your shop or anything?
Not in particular. No, we're just existing.
We have Thursday night at 7 o'clock Pacific time on facebook.com/crossroadsoccult, all one word. Myself, Gladys, and Nelta are doing free tarot and oracle readings for an hour. So come over and see us there. And
so good. I always go listen. They just nail it.
It's a fun hour. We have a really good time. And then at 6 o'clock on Saturday, 6 o'clock Pacific time, same place, facebook.com/crossroadsoccult. Our chemist and our potions guy, David Kurt, is going to be live streaming a very special Valentine's Day potion class. So that's what we have going on. Yeah. Thanks for being here, everybody. It's always a joy. Corbie, Dahlia, thank you.
Yes, yes. So same bat time, same bat channel, as they say.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Until next week, guys. Bye, guys.
Bye.